Pacify Your Fury. Terms and conditions. Legal notice. The publisher has strived to be as accurate and complete as possible in the creation of this report, notwithstanding the fact that he does not warrant or represent at any time that the contents within are accurate due to the rapidly changing nature of the Internet. While all attempts have been made to verify information provided in this publication, the publisher assumes no responsibility for errors, omissions, or contrary interpretation of the subject matter herein. Any perceived slights of specific persons, peoples, or organizations are unintentional. In practical advice books, like anything else in life, there are no guarantees of income made. Readers are cautioned to rely on their own judgment about their individual circumstances to act accordingly. This book is not intended for use as a source of legal, business, accounting, or financial advice. All readers are advised to seek services of competent professionals in legal, business, accounting, and finance fields. You are encouraged to print this book for easy reading. Table of Contents. Foreword. Chapter 1. Understanding Anger. Chapter 2. Letting Your Anger Go. Chapter 3. Managing Your Anger Effectively. Chapter 4. Preventing Anger. Chapter 5. Change Your Lifestyle. Chapter 6. Anger and Relationships. Wrapping up. Forward. In most relationships, the feelings of being unfairly treated is usually the trigger for the anger emotion. Relationships already have a lot of expectations and pressures to deal with, without having the extra and possibly destructive addition of the anger emotion being prevalently displayed. Learning the deal with anger issue within a relationship before it causes the downfall should be seriously considered. Get all the info you need here. Pacify Your Fury. Essential skills to get rid of anger and relax. Chapter 1. Understanding Anger. Synopsis. The following are some tips on how to deal with anger issues within a relationship. The basics. Open discussions is one way of dealing with anger issues within a relationship. Often the perception of feelings being disregarded is enough to bring out the anger emotions, and this is almost always subconscious on the part of the other party. Therefore, it is very important to have frequent discussions, which help to clear up any misconceptions, misunderstandings, and just feelings of doubts. Clearing the air will help all parties involved better understand the wants and needs of each other, thus ensuring such elements are always taken into consideration. Anger issues in a relationship can also be brought on when expectations are not being met or when there is outside pressures such as social and work problems. More often than not, individuals seem to know how to deal with these problems, and so end up spilling them into the relationship's arena, thus causing unnecessary strain on the relationship. Making the effort to deal with such situations outside the relationship, by seeking to sort out matters in any way possible, will allow the parties to leave these issues outside the relationship and focus on other more connective elements within the relationship. There are a lot of ways in dealing with these problems, such as seeking counseling, getting others to chip in and handle work issues, getting the necessary help from sources designed for specific work issues, and generally relieving oneself of these burdens. Chapter 2. Letting Your Anger Go. Synopsis. These is a lot of data that seems to show most people take a demented sort of comfort in creating and maintaining negative situations that gives them a sense of worth and identification. Nutty as it may seem, the average individual is quite unable to go through life simply letting go of their anger for fear that there be nothing left in its place. Getting rid of it, taking the time and effort to replay in the mind's eye the past mistakes only to conjure further negativity, has somehow gained a foothold that is often hard to penetrate and rectify. The unrealistic power this negativity seems to have on the individual eventually causes the both mental and physical problems, which is left unchecked often lead to destructive scenarios. The only way to get over an issue and get on with living is to learn to consciously force one's self to let go, and this can be done with a few practiced measures. The following are some recommendations on how to learn to let go of anger. Getting the frustration element completely out of one's life would be an ideal way to start letting go of any anger issues. A lot of angry people are often frustrated people. Thus, without this negative element present, it would be easier for the individual to achieve some level of happiness and contentment. Changing one's perception of something is also another way of letting go of possible anger rising because of the perceived scenario. Learning to rely solely on realism rather than just perception should be actively adopted to ensure the chances of greeting the situation with anger is limited. When the situation is seen for what it really is, there is then the rationalizing factor that kicks in and allows the said individual to respond better. Chapter 3. Managing your anger effectively. Synopsis. Anger is a very natural emotion. But what is not natural is how it is sometimes manifested or displayed. This is where the anger emotion becomes a danger both to the individual and to others around. Anger is an emotion that should be kept under control at all times irrespective of the situation or reaction. Handle it. The following are some tips as to how to manage anger effectively. Taking a time out, as it is popularly termed, is something everyone should learn to master whenever there is the slightest indication of anger rising from within. Once this is done and the individual has some control of the anger and is calmer, then and only then should anything be expressed. Under such conditions, the content of what is being expressed is more likely to be sensible and less emotional. Exercising is another very effective way of managing anger. The physical activity can effectively dissolve any immediate anger sentiments and leave the individual too exhausted to contemplate confrontations of any kind. Besides giving the individual something distracting to do, physical activities will stimulate the various brain chemicals and create the happy feelings that will in turn relax the individual. Developing the habit to thinking before speaking is something that cannot be emphasized enough. Often people don't stop to think of the consequences of voicing their opinions, especially when it is done in anger. Therefore, by practicing the simple exercise, any potentially negative situation can be diffused, because all concerned are given the opportunity to step back and relook at the situation before making any judgments and comments. Being able to provide workable solutions as opposed to simply contributing negativity will also help to manage any possible anger rising. Cultivating the positive outlook capability will help the individual seek solutions first instead of spewing accusations. Chapter 4. Preventing anger. Synopsis. Prevention is better than cure. This is so true when it comes to the subject of managing anger. Anger, once it is displayed for all to see, cannot be taken back or fixed, as the raw emotion shown will be very telling of the individual character and capabilities. It should be understood that the anger emotion is not something easily controlled, but with a lot of practiced effort it is possible to control it to an acceptable level, if not completely controlling it. Put the brakes on. The following are some areas that should be explored in the quest to prevent anger from surfacing in the first place. Learning relaxation techniques to specifically control the anger levels and manage it better as a very effectively was of preventing the said anger from becoming out of control and ugly. Meditation has been known to successfully provide the much needed relief on the body and mind, so that the focus is no longer on the element that caused the anger but is now relaxed enough to deal with the situation in a calm and controlled manner. An improved and strong degree of self-confidence will help the individual build a better mindset and thought process pattern that ensures the individual is able to comprehend the situation without getting angry or frustrated. This self-confidence will automatically provide the aura around the individual that other will immediately recognize and respect. When this is evident, there is very little possibility of others trying to take advantage or impose their view in an aggressive manner. Being at peace with oneself and surroundings will also ensure the individual is very unlikely to express anger at the slightest provocation. Preventing anger from rising by using this peaceful state of mind is very effective and almost always able to diffuse anger in others too. Chapter 5. Change your lifestyle. Synopsis. It is a well-documented fact that anger does not exist unless it is fed in some way by other factors, such as what the mind perceives or provocation from others. The chemical changes the body goes through when there is anger present is not a state that can sustain itself for long periods of time without fueling the anger element. Do you need to change? The following are some points to consider when trying to address the anger issue by making lifestyle changes. Drinking a lot of cool, not cold, water slowly will help to keep the body systems calm and functioning optimally, thus keeping the possibility of flying into a rage very unlikely. However, the opposite reactions are very possible when liquids such as sweetened drinks, caffeine and carbonated drinks are consumed. This is mainly because of the sugar content that will overexcite the body and mind, thus causing quick and sometimes uncalled for negative reactions. Avoiding alcohol is another lifestyle change that can help to keep anger under control. Most people under the influence of alcohol will attest to the fact, which they were totally unaware of what they did or said, and most times these expressions come out in a negative form. This is made even worse, as most people seem to acknowledge these comments are real, due to the fact that alcohol often gives the individual the extra confidence in expressing such views. Keeping to a nutritious diet and adopting a suitable exercise regimen will also allow the individual to be healthy both in mind and body. When mind and body are healthy, peace is usually a prevailing and dominant factor in the individual life as a whole. Thus, getting angry would seem to be a rather useless way to expound precious energy. Chapter 6. Anger and Relationships Synopsis. In most relationships, the feelings of being unfairly treated is usually the trigger for the anger emotion. Relationships already have a lot of expectations and pressures to deal with, without having the extra and possibly destructive addition of the anger emotion being prevalently displayed. Learning the deal with anger issue within a relationship before it causes the downfall should be seriously considered. The following are some tips on how to deal with anger issues within a relationship. Open discussions is one way of dealing with anger issues within a relationship. Often the perception of feelings being disregarded is enough to bring out the anger emotions, and this is almost always subconscious on the part of the other party. Therefore, it is very important to have frequent discussions, which help to clear up any misconceptions, misunderstandings and just feelings of doubts. Clearing the air will help all parties involved better understand the wants and needs of each other, thus ensuring such elements are always taken into consideration. Anger issues in a relationship can also be brought on when expectations are not being met or when there is outside pressures such as social and work problems. More often than not, individuals seem to know how to deal with these problems, and so end up spilling them into the relationship's arena, thus causing unnecessary strain on the relationship. Making the effort to deal with such situations outside the relationship, by seeking to sort out matters in any way possible, will allow the parties to leave these issues outside the relationship and focus on other more connective elements within the relationship. There are a lot of ways in dealing with these problems, such as seeking counseling, getting others to chip in and handle work issues, getting the necessary help from sources designed for specific work issues, and generally relieving oneself of these burdens. Wrapping up, for a lot of people who feel that they have been wronged, forgiveness is not an option that they are willing to explore, especially when the element of negativity is still raw and ever present. If an individual is willing to explore the options of letting go and forgiving, the feelings of freedom derived from the burden being lifted is both rejuvenating and relieving. Therefore, it would be in the best interest of the individual to learn to forgive easily and completely. The following are some recommendations on how to harness the energy to forgive easily and effectively in order to allow the individual to move on successfully. Understanding that forgiveness is all about freeing up and putting to better use the energy that come from the anger is one way of harnessing the energy generated from this negative element into a positive one. Holding grudges, harboring resentment, nursing old wounds and generally insisting on dwelling on the issue that triggered the anger can be very exhausting and time-consuming, and thus redirecting this energy towards more useful exercises would benefit tremendously both mentally and physically. It is a well-documented fact that the body releases a lot of negative energy that can be very damaging to the system when a person insists on wallowing in the anger phase. The negative chemical imbalance cannot be avoided if the individual is unwilling to let go of the anger, and this will eventually lead to serious mental and physical issues. By harnessing the energy to forgive, the individual is effectively ensuring the mind and body are now willing to choose serenity and happiness over the anger, thus giving the individual the opportunity to get back to enjoying life in general without thus burden being a constant in his or her life. Thank you for watching my video.